right. Well, welcome. Today is June 5th, 2021. We are here at the Cecilton Community Center in Cecilton, Maryland, where we are here to collect community memories of the Levi Coppin School. For the record, do you mind just stating your name and your connection to the Levi Coppin School?
My name is Evelyn Jordan. I went to Levi Coppin in September 1960, just as I came out. And I was there until the schools were integrated.
So this was your first teaching assignment?
That was my first teaching assignment. And I loved every moment of it.
So how did you end up coming to Levi Coppin School as a teacher?
I really don't know who selected me. When I came out, graduated from college, I was working at the APG Proving Ground commissary. And I was happily working, because back during those times it was hard to get jobs. And one day I came home, my mother said that I'd gotten a call from the board office. I know I applied when I was in college, but had not received any answers. And when I got the job, the supervisor's name was Evelyn K. And she used to always tease me that she did not hire me, she hired my mother. Because every time she called the house, I was working and my mother in the pizza club. But anyhow, that was my job. September 1960 at Levi Coppin. And I taught part second, third, and fourth grade. But the grade you was assigned depend on the number of students that were enrolled. So there were times I've had part second, third, and fourth. There are other times I've had just 34.
So you were teaching, there were some times you were teaching multiple grades.
You're right. Because it was a 3G school.
And about how many students would you say you had in the class?
20.
About 20?
25. Sometimes 30, it just depends.
So you said you were working at APG when you were hired to come teach at Levi Coppin School. What was that experience like for you, coming from Hartford County to Cecilton? Had to have been a little bit of a different environment.
Well, I originally was born and raised in Port Deposit, so Cecil County was my home. But I was able to get a job down there because in the areas, a lot of people worked at the Proving Ground or Bainbridge Naval Training Center.
I see.
And I worked there as a cashier.
And did you go to Belly? Is that where you graduated from?
Did I do what?
Did you go to Belly for your teacher training?
Yeah, I graduated from Boise State College.
So, what are some of your specific memories about those 5 years that you taught at the Levi Coppin School?
It was a family affair. Miss Harris was like a mother to us. Miss Briscoe was like my big sister because I was the youngest in the house. And the children, when they saw the teacher, they came running. Very manable kids. We did not have any disrespectful kids. And we enjoyed that time. And I know I did. I enjoyed it. In fact, I had some students here that went home with me. I was married 1 year. And they went home for the weekend with me.
So you were, were you living in Cecilton at the time, or were you commuting from Port?
I commuted, before I got married, I commuted from Port Deposit to Cecilton every day. Then after I got married in '62, I commuted from Aberdeen to Cecilton every day. And never missed a day.
So Mrs. Harris was your principal during that time. Who were some of the other teachers that you were working with at Levi Coppin?
Miss Celestine Briscoe was the second She taught first and second grade, and Miss Harris taught fifth and sixth.
Mhm. So, you were here until 1965. So, when the schools had, when the Levi Coppin closed, where did you go from there?
Bayview Elementary School in Northeast.
And then did you end up staying?
I ended up teaching third grade there.
Mhm. And that's where you spent, is that where you spent the rest of your career? Or?
No, I think I was there about 5 years.
Mhm.
And then in the summer, they had Head Start to help get kids ready. And I became director of Head Start for 1 year. Was called into the office by Mr. Finn, who was the superintendent at that time, and asked about being a helping teacher. A helping teacher was a person who went around and helped other teachers who were having problems. The problems were identified by the principal, the supervisors when they went in once a month, and sometimes the teachers themselves felt they needed help and they could request help. So I was a floater in Cecil County for that.
So you were traveling.
I traveled over.
So what was that experience like going from Levi Coppin to Bayview Elementary School? Since that was the period the schools were fully integrating, was there a lot of tension? Do you recall there being any tension, or what were the feelings like in the community at the time?
Well, I was well accepted there, and I know it was hard for some. It was hard for me in a way. But however, being a Christian, you accept everybody as they are. And the first day of school, I will never forget, he took the lunch counter. The little girl, her name was Karen Bell. She took it to the office and turned it in. And while she was there, she wanted to know, if we went to lunch and she eats with us, can we sit beside her? So the principal told her yes. But I never ate in the teacher's room. I always wanted to be with kids. And I ended up with a calendar that we had in the room. Each day, two students would sign up if they wanted me to sit with them. So I would sit between the two of them. And we did that the whole time I was a baby. But I never had any problems with students themselves. I didn't know about it. One student, there was a little girl, her mother didn't, when they found out that I was coming and I was colored, did not want her in my classroom. But I was not told at all about it. And I guess the principal did not do anything. So one day I received a note from the mother, and the mother said I had pulled the little girl's hair. No. So anyhow, I showed it to the principal, and she talked to my whole class. And I went out because I wanted her to get the true story. And I had a teacher's aide, and she was one. So anyhow, she asked her, no, she never touches us. And I'll never forget. That was it. That was the end of it, But it was only one parent that did not want.
So kind of circling back to Levi Coppin, what were some of the like people had mentioned some of the earlier, Zane mentioned some of the different activities like there were movie nights, there were the King and Queen event. What were some of the things that you recall here from Levi Coppin?
We have trips, but it was a school trip.
Mm-hmm.
There were never class trips.
So the whole school would go.
The whole school would go. But the PTA raised the money in order for everyone to go. It was free for the kids and they paid for the buses. And I remember one trip we went to Philadelphia Zoo. Another time when the World's Fair was in New York, they took everybody to New York to the World Fair. But we had a very good PTA. They worked well together. and they did all they could to raise money. I do remember I had a friend that had a band, and he would bring his band down, and one Saturday night they had a school dance, to raise money. So, but it was the PTA who raised all the money that was spent.
That's great. That considering the fact that you don't see as many field trips in schools anymore. The fact that the students are able to go to the World's Fair and some of those events, that's amazing. Amazing. Are there any other specific memories of Levi Coppin that you'd like to share with us?
Only the students, I really cared about the students, and still see some of them sometime. And I remember when my husband passed about 5 years ago at the church, some of them came down to the service.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? Anything you think of?
What else you want to do?
It's up to you. If there's anything else about Levi Coppin you want to share, anything about your career, whatever, it's on us.
I do remember that, discipline really never had too much, but I remember one student was always doing something. It was always with other children. And school was out now, and my husband was off from the proving ground. So he brought me to work that day. And when he came to pick me up, he had his nephew with him. I think he must have been about third grade, or second, third grade. And this little boy, the kids always hung around after school, but they were there. And he saw this little boy, and they start talking. And I said to the little boy, I said, if you behave yourself in school, I'll take you home for the weekend. And I did that. And we never had any more trouble at Coppin the whole time we were at Coppin.
Yeah, it's definitely not building those relationships. That's important. Yeah. Well, unless there's anything else, any questions you want to
Mrs. Jordan, how about if we ask some of your former students if they want to say anything to you? Is that all right? You just stay right there. Would anybody want to say something to Mrs. Jordan? I'll just leave the table. Yeah. Oh, Doug. Doug, we'll come up. So, yeah. Doug's from Cecilton TV, everybody. He's from they have a cable TV station in Mrs. Jordan. Well, Doug's getting set up. Anybody want to come up and say anything to Mrs. Jordan? Or ask her a question? Talk about a memo? That's what we did. She's the last one back. Once the cables, just so we'll go on. That's sweet. Do you want that spot now? Well. But kind of should.
These are my girls that came home.
I get the shots.
Sure. I don't know how long this is going to run. Let's see.
I've got a fair amount.
Let's see. Is the camera still saying with you and Terry? Is the camera still on?
We've been recording everything.
Okay.
I'm still on air. I didn't shut it up. All right. Go ahead and talk.
Well, Miss Jordan, if you didn't know how much we loved you, we're telling you again today. We love you, we appreciate you, and we are where we are today because of you. Yes. It's been a blessing to have known you and to think you would take time out to come to share your experience. That shows that you do love us too.
Yes, I did.
It's a big love affair. It is. Yeah.
So you two had Mrs. Jordan as a teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same as did they go home with you on the weekends?
Yes, yes.
Oh, my husband was sick of it.
Rocky, what's a memory?
Children.
What are some of the memories that you got from school class?
She was nice. She was stern.
Yeah.
She was stern. But she was not like everything that has been said here today. It was so family knitted, close knitted, and she knew our parents. So, we had no other choice but really to stay on the good side. But she was good. I mean, summing up, she was an excellent teacher.
For her to be a new teacher coming in, did an excellent job.
Were you nervous about meeting her the first time as a young person?
No.
No.
She just knew that, I think Mrs. Harris had told us regularly, was going to have a new teacher. So we was excited to see the new teacher.
Yeah.
And it was Miss Griffin.
Yeah.
So we was,
Miss Griffin for.
and we really liked it when she took us home.
Yeah.
You would call her favorite.
What did you teach, Mrs. Jordan? And I mean, what were some of the subjects you remember talking to them?
Well, we taught everything.
Yes.
Reading, writing, math, social studies, science.
So you did everything, huh?
We did everything.
Did you have a favorite subject that you enjoyed teaching?
No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I knew I had to teach it, and some things you had to research, but I did it.
Yeah.
And we had to use the books. We never had new books. We had the books that came over from Cecilton Elementary. So we did the best we could with what we had. And our kids never complained.
Run, Dick, Jane, and Sal. And Spot.
Don't forget Spot.
Did you go on the class trips they've been talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I guess
All the teachers were present. The whole school went.
And sometimes our parents would shadow those.
Our parents would go too.
Who was the bus driver? Somebody was over the bus driver. Pinkies or something like that.
The name of the bus was Phil.
No.
The next thing go down on each machine. Right.
Yeah.
But one thing I can't remember correctly about Miss Jordan, she always wanted you to read writing paper. And as I got older, my aunt was a teacher. And she was the same, she instilled that the same with us. That never have a paper when you read. This is all the reading. So I like that. Really did. I might go teach from Miss Jordan.
And I remember another event from the school. We had our lunches were drove in on a truck from the other school. My grandfather, Leon Carroll, and Mr. Pat Jeff used to bring in the lunches. And then in the morning, the teachers would take account who was gonna buy lunch. And I remember one day I was so used to buying lunch, so I got in the lunch line to buy lunch. And then they must have looked on the list, and Miss Briscoe, Miss Jordan said, "You weren't supposed to be in that lunch line. You're supposed to go home." So I guess I put it down, put it back, and went up to my grandmother's late lunch.
So,
I mean, it's just the small little things that we did.
so you could go home for lunch.
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of kids did.
oh,
Kids did.
yeah.
So this was when the school makes good folks, like you had like an hour lunch or 30 minutes.
Probably
It was about an hour because then you played after the lunch and playtimes.
And we had plays at the school. I was looking at for a picture this morning, but I'm still no. I can't remember the name of the play. Well, I remember we did Hansel and Gretel. We do remember we did that. And then we had a play, and several of us were angels. And I got that picture somewhere, and I'm gonna find it to show you. But We just had some good times. Good times.
That's why I say it's good memory.
So you'd have an annual play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we made the costumes.
Yeah.
Parents and the teachers made the costumes.
Were you whatever they call, the producer, Mrs. Jordan, the organizer?
All the teachers were.
Yeah. Was that a lot of work? Were you nervous about that day coming up and making sure everything was ready to go?
We had kids, if you say do it, they do it.
Okay.
You know, they did it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm getting a sense of, too, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that there were not separate classes this time for art and music. There were,
Oh, no. We had a music teacher that came in, I think, once a week.
so that was somebody that was traveling around.
That traveled around. That's all we had. We never had an art teacher.
Now,
No.
do you recall if that was that person only going to the all black schools, or were they going to every school?
I really done that.
Yeah.
Because see, I knew what happened at Coppin.
Right.
Until I end up, they closed the schools that I learned things were different, you know. But we did what the kids needed,
And remember how when we were having something big, the big doors would open?
yes.
Miss Harris's players for your Christmas.
Yeah. They had it invited.
So okay, so this was it was a 3-room school building, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I never had a chance to go inside of it, but so I heard Ben Field mention there were 3 different teachers. So you had a classroom that had like a movable wall.
You had the movable walls with the blackboards on it.
Right.
That was between 4th and 5th, and 3rd and 4th.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Anything else that you'd like to share for the record?
No.
Mrs. Jordan, you were saying you still hear from some of your students. After you still hear from some of your students after all these years, huh?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I can think that
Yeah. Must have been a very great community, a very tight
Yeah.
group. And
at some church affairs, you know, we might run into each other.
yeah. Yeah. Did anybody else teach at the school other than the 3 teachers that were mentioned in your time? Yeah.
Not the only time I remember.
Yeah.
I replaced another lady who was there and had left, but I didn't know.
Does anybody know who the principal was before Mrs. Harris? No.
It sounds like it was pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, good. Thanks.